Alright, sorry about that. Hey, what's up, y'all? It is Kieran Rodriguez here with another good video for today. Um, I wanted to make this video to talk about Mr. Xander Zayas. I have a lot to talk about for the homie today. I wanted to make my argument towards Xander. I want to be as very impartial as possible, but I do think, I don't know. Honestly, I have a lot to say about him, but the thing is that Xander Zayas is a good fighter, and I think Xander, he's going to make a very big difference at 154, and where he's at in his career. He's gonna do some really good stuff, but the problem that I have is the matchmaking. I'm not saying that this isn't a bad career that Xander's going through for his matchmaking, but I do but I do understand where Xander's mindset is at with trying to, build up little by little to make sure he's ready for the top dogs at 154. And I think Xander, he's a good fighter. Like, don't get it twisted. I think Xander, he knows what he has to do in order to win. And I think where he's at in his career, he knows what he has to do. See, now, what are my initial thoughts on Xander? I think Xander is a good boxer puncher. So what does that mean when I say boxer puncher? A boxer puncher is someone who is technically gifted, has good ring IQ, and is developing into a good technical, passive aggressive type, intelligent boxer. A fighter that doesn't take too much punishment, but they are not afraid to go, deep down to deep waters with you. See, now, the good thing about Xander is that he is a good fighter. He obviously knows how to, utilize his ring IQ abilities to do the things that he wants to do. And I think where he's at in his career, Xander, he has a lot to prove in the ring. And it's good that, he does that because, he knows how to get down. He, he's not afraid to make sure that, it becomes like a dogfight. Because that's what Xander, he's built for. He's built to be, a tank type fighter. He's very stocky, he's very brawlic, but when you force this man to think in the ring and you make him, decide on what decisions are right to go for and what's not right to go for, that's what brings the best out of Xander. Because Xander, he knows how to utilize his micro macro level decision making properly in a fight. And the good thing about Xander is just that he just knows how to break people down, and he knows when to go in at the right time. Because the good thing about Xander is just that Xander, he's a killer. He just knows how to obliterate you to the body, and he knows how to make you think when you come face to face with him. See, now, the thing about Xander is mostly to do with his stamina issues. And I think that how he fights in the ring, he fights intelligent. Don't get it twisted, but he tends to gas out a little bit early in fights. And I think where he's at in his career, he'll get better. There's nothing to be, sad about, or there's nothing to be afraid about that. Everybody has their moments in a fight where they're not fully prepared and they're not fully ready to go deep waters. But I think where he's at right now, he knows what he has to do in order to get there. And I think where Xander's at right now, he's just gonna keep getting better, because the good thing about him is that he doesn't give up. He's that type of guy where if you punch him to a point where he may feel like it could be over, he, like, you know, he obviously doesn't give up. He makes sure, like, that you don't, like, basically, you don't break him. He breaks you. Like, like, you know, he just keeps on coming after you. And that's what I like out of Xander, because he's just, you know, he's just that type of guy where he doesn't let you break him. He goes down when it's time for him to go down, and he doesn't, you know, stop going down, because he basically fights to the very end, and he goes out on a shield if that has to go to that point. But he doesn't fight, how should I say, super ultra risky. He's a very calm, calculated fighter. And I think what we seen out of the last fight against that Luis Sanchez guy, good fighter. Don't have to say anything bad about him, because he is a damn good, how should I say, he's a good brawler type of fighter. I can understand his deficiencies and flaws. He can't get any combinations off when someone outboxes him and gives him issues. But once he has that right opportunity and he picks you apart, then that's when he starts getting, you know, like, really dangerous and trying to piece you up and then make you feel, how should I say, uncomfortable in a fight. So I think, honestly, I, like, you know, I can, like, you know, I could see how dangerous a Luis Sanchez was for Xander, but it may not seem like it was dangerous, because it was more like, okay, but this might be something that Xander needed. He needed somebody like that, you know, somebody with like a rough, rugged style that gave him work and made him think in that fight. But now here we are with him facing a Dan Karpinski. Do we say that this is a good matchup? Because, see, now, before anybody comes down and tries to say, oh, here we go again, you know, you're trying to hate on Xander, blah, 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 to all the Puerto Rican, you know, detractors that want to come up here and try to say, oh, nah, K-Rod, you were not standing up for your bloodline, blah, blah, blah. No, look, I love my Puerto Ricans to death. I love every single one of them. But I'm going to keep it real as I keep it real with any other sport. I keep the truth consistent. And a Dan Karpinski fight is a good fight, and which I've already discussed this on other people's platforms, or I've talked with other people. But shout out to Kind of Local Sports. If you guys want to check out his video that he did with L-Dub, or no, not with L-Dub, but he had like a live stream that I managed to just call in and talk about Xander Zayas. We had a really good conversation about it, and if you guys want to go check that out, please go check that out. I'll probably take snippets and I'll upload it to my Instagram. I'll make sure that you guys go see that. You know, I'll definitely have a lot of fun with that. And, yeah, I'll definitely do what I have to do, because I like having fun talking about any of these videos. And, I do what I have to do just to, you know, enjoy myself. But me and Kano, we had a really good talk about Xander's, you know, next opponent. And I was, you know, the first to disagree with his position in regards to him fighting Dan Karpinski. I personally felt like it wasn't a good fight for him to take, because Dan Karpinski, to me, looks like, you know, like one of those like journeyman bums that could be a bad fight, but come to think about it, he's not that bad of a fighter. He can fight, he knows what he's doing, but the question is that, you know, is he willing to be that type of fighter? And, you know, I don't know. Honestly, like, that's going to be determined by how this fight will go down. And, I think, you know, where things go, it's going to be determined if Xander wants to make a point out of him, or he wants to, you know, see where his limits are against, you know, the top dogs at 154. And is Dan Karpinski a good fit for him? Me personally, I would say no, but I could see from Kano's point of view that Dan Karpinski is a good opponent, because it's an opponent that was supposed to be defeated by other guys like Joey Spencer, but he then wasn't able to get that fight due to the fact of the matter that Vito Malnecki, he wasn't able to get his fight with James Martin, so that basically left Vito fighting a last-minute replacement, which made absolutely no sense, but he then went off to face, you know, shit. Dan Karpinski didn't face anybody. I know that for a fact, but he basically was facing another guy that I don't know the name of, and James Martin fought Joey Spencer, as a last minute, replacement opponent, for the fact of that matter. Because I think Dan, he didn't make weight, or he pulled out of the fight. He had something going on. But, no, I think honestly, what should have happened was that James Martin should have fought Vito. Vito should have just taken that, step to, basically fight James at 154. Because, that the reason why he didn't want to fight James again was simply because, he came in overweight, so therefore I ain't gonna fight him, blah, blah, blah. So he's gonna make that, little weird excuse to say that, I'm not gonna fight James Martin because, I don't need him for my career, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nah, dude, you need James Martin for your career, because if you don't fight a guy like him anymore, you know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be like the Fernando Vargas effect, where you think you're so good until you get knocked off by somebody that's better than you, and then he's levels above you, like a Jaron Ennis type fighter. And then when he decides to step it up, he's gonna, he's gonna get clipped in one of his fights by somebody that's not even that known. But guess what? He's popping in the welterweight division, and he's on, on that come up, and then boom, he's gonna get smoked. So now I can understand what Conor was trying to say. Because Xander Zayas, him taking Dan Karpinski is a good move to the other guys on the other sides of the street. Whether that's coming from PBC, or whether that's coming from Top Rank, from other fighters that are looking at him, or if it's coming from DAZN or any other, major platforms or other alternative competitors. So I can understand why that had to happen. I can understand why Xander took this fight, because it actually made a lot more sense of why he wanted to make a statement and taking this fight instead of fighting a guy like Joey Spencer, in which I think a Joey Spencer fight will probably happen down the road. But I can understand why Dan Karpinski is a good, good little taste at 154 to see where his skills are, so he can upgrade himself a lot better. Because Dan Karpinski, he's never been stopped, but he's definitely a rough, rugged opponent. But I think it's just gonna end up like another Larry Fires fight. I think what Xander's gonna do, he's gonna pick this guy apart, and he's gonna see where this guy's mindset is at, and then once he's able to do things, to Dan, to make him feel, demoralized and I guess broken down to the point where he could stop him or just outbox him like he does with all his other opponents, then I think Xander will just do the same thing. So I think, Xander, he's in the right step in the right direction, but where he's at in his career, I think that's where he needs to do the things that he needs to do. And, I think, Xander's matchmaking will get a lot stronger, and I think he'll do the things that he wants to do later on down the road. So, I have no, hold bards, I guess, beef towards Xander. I think Xander is, he's a good fighter. He definitely knows what he has to do in order to get the job done. But, where he's at in his career, there is so much more smoke that he definitely needs to get tested by. Because when he's up there at 154, man, I just believe like Xander, he's just not like, he needs to be battle tested now instead of being battle tested later. And I think that's what's gonna I think that's what's gonna happen. He's gonna face a guy like Jamonte Clark one day. He's 27 years old, but Xander, he's only 19. And good enough that he came into boxing so young, because if he came into boxing late, it's like, it would not make any sense in the world for him to not take these fights now instead of taking them later. Because what I don't like out of boxers that start taking step up fights later when they're past like their prime, or when they're like close to the end of their peak of their prime, like when you see Michaela Mayer, when she takes her step up fights, she's obviously going up against like old veterans, but Michaela Mayer, she doesn't look like the same person as she was 3 years ago. Like she's definitely slowing down, and she doesn't have like the right boxing skill set as she once did, because when she came into the game late in her career, or I think she started at like 27 and now she's like 31, 30, but it's like, you could see the depreciation coming in fast. Vasyl Lomachenko, he came into the game late, and look at where he's at right now. He's not the same fighter no more. Lomachenko, he's already ate what he could, he's already ate the amount of smoke that he was able to get. He's already filled up his legacy, legacy menu of opponents that he was able to feast off of. And now it's like, there's like a new wave of young lions that are just ready to take him out. And it's like, does Lomachenko want to take that risk against a fighter like Teofimo Lopez? Or, will he continue to just fight guys that we know that he could beat, and then Bob Arum could just put him up against a couple, journeymen or somewhat decent fighters where they're close to the end of, to the end of their careers, just like Lomachenko. And then Lomachenko, he will basically just live on to be like the Ukrainian Great White Hope type of not so good southpaw fighter that we all know. And I mean, compare that to Xander Zayas. I don't ever see Xander Zayas ending up like Lomachenko, because good enough for him that separates himself from a Lomachenko or Michaela Mayer type fighter is that Xander Zayas, he came into the game young. He got signed at 16 years old. So just imagine what Xander Zayas could have done, at like, I don't even know. If he came into the game late, like let's just say he started at 20 instead of 17 for his very, very first fight, then Xander Zayas, he would have had to step it up at like 10 plus fights. Because when you start in your 20s, that goes by a little bit too quick as far as like the cutoff ratio of how long you have to wait before you get another fight in. But I don't think Xander would be that, I guess that disingenuous to not wait that long to get a fight in, because, we could see that Xander, he's been pretty active. He's not taking any breaks. Like, if you compare him to like Floyd Schofield, like Xander Zayas, he's definitely getting back into the ring like every so often, because out of 2021, he's basically fought like 4 times. That's good. Floyd Schofield, he fought like, 8 times out of the entire year? But that's amazing, because that means that Xander Zayas, he was active in 2020. He fought like 4 times out of 2020, and then he did the same thing in 2021. He fought 4 times. Yep, his cutoff ratio was like 2 to 4 months, which isn't bad. He's staying active. But I think, obviously, these new generation bred fighters, they're obviously not taking fights, every other week. Because if you compare them to, Like the old time fighters, like the old time fighters, those guys were like, yeah, those guys were fighting like every other weekend, which is insane. But you can see how much drive they had into the sport because they were staying in shape. They were healing up probably a lot faster, even though medicine wasn't good compared to now. So it's like the fighters that basically worked on the job, but they were like traveling like everywhere just to get a fight. That's very interesting. That like that's like the type of fighters that I would call um lone warrior type of fighters. Like those fighters are the ones that are like really dedicated to the game, but they're like the black sheeps of boxing. Like those are the guys that are willing to take dark risk in their careers where they're like, oh, if I'm gonna, take a good fight for $100,000 plus, but this fight is like on a 5 day notice, yeah, then those fighters would take that type of money because they're like, hey, if I could like drive around throughout the entire US and just fight, domestically, but I have to drive everywhere, where I have to go, but I'm fighting like almost like every other weekend. That's pretty interesting. I've definitely been surprised by the historic genealogy of some fighters that are able to have that drive and hunger to fight that active. But in today's boxing new generation world, we're definitely seeing fighters being a lot more safer with their careers. So though those fighters are actually being like active, every couple months or so, which is a little bit too risky because it's like, if you kind of have that long of a layoff, then that could set back a lot of things, especially like, let's just say if your opponent pulls out or you're not able to make the fight or make weight or whatever happens before fight day. I can understand why fighters would like to just stay active as quickly as possible because you don't want to be taking risks like that. Like, take a look at Shenard Bunch. Shenard Bunch, he is one of the most active welterweights right now because he told me that on my channel, but we could see right here. What has he been doing ever since 2020? Shit, I'll even go back to 2020. I'll start from 2020, before COVID even hit. He fought Dennis Akoff, knocked him out. Fabian Lemieux, knocked his ass out, knocked this guy out. So he's been active. Like in 2020, he fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, he fought 5 times in 2020, and then leading into 2020, he fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yo, and 7. Yo, my boy is staying active. That is what I'm talking about, man. But if you could do stuff like that, then I mean, within a whole year, you could get a good 10 to 20 bout, or I wouldn't say 20, but within a year, if you're keeping yourself safe and healthy and you're able to take these fights like it's nothing, obviously, like if you're just taking whatever fight available just to make money and just keep building up your record, and then you're going to be ready for those top guys because you're active and they're not active, then that gives you the upper hand advantage to become that good fighter. So for Xander Zayas, I'm actually happy for him. I'm happy that he's staying active because he came back into the ring in 3 months prior to the Larry Friars fight against Jose Luis Sanchez. So that was good. But then before the Larry Friars fight, it was only 2 months later for him to fight Larry Friars after he knocked out DeMarcus Layton. And then 2 months before that was James Martin. So, I like how Xander is moving in the sport. So now we need to talk about the top guys. Let's talk about these guys because I have a lot of time on my hands to get this out the way. But my next 5 opponents that I would definitely like to see Xander in the ring with in the future would be number 1, Leon Lawson. I've been talking about his name for quite a while. That would be a beautiful fight for him if he's willing to take that challenge. Number 2 would be Damian Sosa. That is a damn good fight. I would love to see that fight. Have another Mexican war type of fight. Number 3 would be um, Joey Spencer. I would like to see that fight in the future. I think Xander, he would stop Joey. I don't think Joey is a good boxer, but he could definitely hit you. He could bang at you. He could give you rounds. He can make sure that you're gonna stay busy with him. But that would be a good step up contender bout for him. This is gonna be a little bit risky for me to say this, but if number 4 opponent could be available, I like to see him in the ring with Charles Conwell. I may be pushing it. I may be pushing it. I don't know, because Charles Conwell, he's almost in line with Xander Zayas. He's almost at 20 bouts or 20 matches, but let me tell you something about Charles. Charles Conwell is no joke. And I think that is a damn good fight for Xander. Only because Xander, he is going to go to war with killers like that one day. A Charles Conwell is not going to say, oh, this is Xander Zayas. This is like the next big thing, like a Miguel Cotto type of fighter. No, he's going to be eyeing Xander Zayas as he comes up in his division. So I think that would be a beautiful fight to see. I would love to see that fight. But if that fight can't come into the works, I'd like to see Cordell Booker. That is a damn good fighter. I personally know Cordell. He is a very, very deadly fighter. But that would be a flame fight if I were Xander Zayas. If I want to take a good fight like that, or how about Takeshi Inoue? That was the guy that gave Jaime Munguia problems in the ring. Even though that Jaime Munguia won that fight against him, but he came to fight. I wouldn't mind a Carlos Ocampo, and I would probably say maybe a Troy Williamson. No, me personally, I would stay away from British fighters because they're they're obviously not interesting. But I mean, if that's something that he could get in the future, I'd like to see him knock out a lot of these British bums. But if he could take out this guy and Ted Cheeseman and all these other clowns, I definitely like to see that, because those guys are not going to be good coming up into 154. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. Anyways, no hard feelings towards Xander Zayas. He's obviously on his way to great things. And I think where he's at in his career, he's definitely doing things a lot better than for what some of these other guys are doing. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think about this video. And this is Kieran Rodriguez signing out. Bye.